1 2 1 2. Okay.
All right. So, since some of you guys maybe have some trouble to attend this class last week, so let me have a little reminders for what we have taught. So, we are talking about the enumeration and the list and the dictionary last week. These three things are some data structure knowledge in C# programming. So, if you download the PowerPoint, I think you have to read through the list and the dictionary part throughout the PowerPoint slides. So, what is list and what is dictionary? Actually, probably you have some experience about using arrays or list or dictionary in your project before. So that is a very nice experience. And when we are dealing with some data in your game or in your application, you need to design the database, the format of database. For example, if you have a player A, and player A has points, attack or defense ability, or the experience value right now he's having. So, um, beyond the name of the character, he has at least three different values to keep within. So, you have to design the field of the data structure in order to implement the data structure and to implement the whole data in your application, you have to know how to use list and dictionary. Okay, so that's why we need this kind of data structure and data collections. We call these things data collections. So today we're going to introduce the class object. So maybe you have some experience before. You know how to declare a class. You know how to instantiate an object. So can the object keep some information in it? Should data be stored in the class object? I think the answer is yes. So let's introduce how to do that.
All right. So, what is a class object? Let's talk about the definition of class object. A class in C# actually is a blueprint for creating objects. Okay, so now we're facing two different words. The first word is class, and the second word is object. So what's the relationship between a class and an object? All right, so let me have a pretty nice sketch for everybody. So you know I like to draw some comics, right? So right now I'm going to sketch the relationship between a class and the object. Okay, so now I have a sketchboard. So do you guys know some Super Mario? Super Mario is a very famous game, which is designed by Nintendo. So, for example, you have a Super Mario over here. He is a Super Mario. He is a Super Mario, right? So, and the most famous enemy that Mario is facing is a turtle. So this is a turtle, right? Turtle. Yeah. And maybe there are more than one turtle in a level, right? In order to increase the difficulty for Mario, now we put two turtles in this level. And I think this is too easy for the Mario, so I add another turtle. Now it is facing right. Okay, now we have three different turtles. Okay, the problem will be like this. When we are making some program that moving the turtle, do I need to write three different parts of program for these three different turtles? Yes or no? No, absolutely no. So how many programs do I need to write for the whole three turtles? Just one. Yeah, correct answer. So we call this only one program. We call it class. A class is serving as a blueprint high above the sky. Okay, now I draw a super turtle. He's a turtle god living here. He's a turtle god. Oh, this guy is a class. So whenever he needs to put some more turtle into the world, he chooses to instantiate, to spawn, himself into the world. So all these three different turtles are copies, just copies of the super god turtle. But these three turtle has to maintain some different values like health point. For different turtle, it should have different health point. For example, the turtle over here, he has a health point equals to 5. He has a health point equal to 10, and he has a health point only for 1. So even the program is the same, but the values are different. Okay? So we only have to write a program for 1, but we have to keep different copies of the values, that is data. So that's the importance of data. You have to nicely arrange the data in order to uh, get the status of each different instance. All right. So right now we call this kind of instance a object. So these things are objects. Objects. So class and object, object and class. This is the relationship between these two things. Now let's go back to the PowerPoint slide. Okay, I think this diagram pretty good illustrate the relationship we just draw in the Mario example. So we have a class. He is the super god high above the sky. When he wants to copy himself into the game world or into the application world, he has to instantiate. So by instantiate, I mean simply copy the program part and um, initialize the data structure for the different objects. So that's it. All right. So let's go back to the content over here. A class is in C sharp is a blueprint for creating object. It encapsulates data for the object and method to manipulate that data. Okay, so we can split an object into two parts. The first part is the data, and the second part is the methods. So that's what we have done during the last year. Okay, so when to use how to use that? The usage is classes are used to model complex data structures and behaviors in object-oriented programming (OOP). So they provide a way to create object with property, method, and events. So for example, classes are commonly used to represent entities in a game, such as player, enemies, and items. So I think most of the students from interactive department has some experience about writing C Sharp Unity program. So at that time, I think you have designed some player characters or enemy characters. So all these kind of program derived from the class format. So that is class object. Next. All right. So what's the difference between a class object and a struct object? If you have some experience using C language or C++ language, I think you should have learned a thing called a struct before. And these two things, I mean, class and struct, they look so similar. So we have to distinguish the differences between class and struct before we use them. Okay, the most important difference has been highlighted in this paragraph. So let's focus on the difference, focus on the colored characters over here. So for class, a class is a reference type of data. But for struct, a struct is a value type data. So what's the difference? Uh, Let me draw the sketch again. Okay, maybe you had some computer knowledge before you join this class. So this is a memory. Memory. In short, I write this as a mem. Okay. So the memory address from bottom to top is from smaller number to a bigger number over here. So maybe I have to write 4 hex digits. Sorry. Uh, all right, never mind. FF. So whenever we make a function call, we put the variable as a stack over here. It grows from bottom to top. We call this kind of storage a stack. For example, wait a minute. If I write a function call which is echo, and I want to pass an argument to the echo, and I just want to pass a string as the only arguments to it, and I'm calling these string arguments a value. So just like we know before, we use curly braces to encapsulate the method body over here. Hmm? Do you remember that? This is a method, and this is a method body. And this is the signature for this method. We call these things signature. A signature is composed of several arguments and even non-arguments. So right now, this echo method, it has only one argument whose name is value. So whenever I call echo, I'm going to initiate a new memory over here. And this memory will be used to store value. Sorry. Oops. So when somebody calls the echo, my stack will have a new memory be created, and I'm going to use this memory to store value. And later, I'm going to execute all the method body over here. And at the end, I'm going to clean everything and exit the method. Oops. Now, if I'm going to exit from echo, I'm going to delete the value and return to my program. So what will happen if I have two different values over here? If you have more value over here, for example, this is value 1, and you have another integer as value number 2, v2, then you'll have another v2 over here. And if you have more values, after that you have a value number 3, and you're going to create a new memory and just push this value over here. This is stack. And again, when after you execute all the method in method body, you're going to exit the method. When you are going to exit the method, all these variables will be released. They will be deleted, and the memory will be released. So this kind of value is value type variables. Whenever we call this method, we'll just copy the value and store into memory. But something different when you are calling a memory with class object. Now, maybe I'm going to make a create method over here. And I'm going to pass a player object, which is a custom class. A player, I'm going to call this guy P1. What if I'm calling a method with an object as its argument? You see, this is a value, this is a value, and a string, you can take it as a value temporarily. But whenever you call another function, another method, and with its only argument as an object, what will happen? All right, since this is an object, it will not create such a huge memory and store the object over here. It won't do this. On the other hand, there is another part of memory called a heap. Did you hear the heap before? Heap. Heap is growing from top to bottom in the in a inverse direction to stack. So it will create the object on heap. So it will create P1 over here. And on the other hand, it will create a reference to P. Reference, sorry, R E F to P1 over here in order to point it to the memory over here. So that's how we pass an object. These kind of things are reference type value. So this is a different why we're talking about this, because we are talking about the reference type value, reference type data and the value type data. For struct, a struct is a value type data. When you are passing a struct to a method, you just copy the content and everything is stored on stack. And on the other hand, a class is a reference type data. So when you are passing a class, uh, an object to a method, actually you are creating something in the heap and just pass the reference to the function. So these are the difference. This is the most important difference between class and a struct. So if you forget to delete the heap, what will happen? Right, so this is the most important thing. Do you have any experience when you play some mobile game? As long you play the game longer and longer and longer, the game gets sluggish and sluggish, and slower, much more slower. And you have such similar experience before. So, what happened to my game? Uh, you have any idea why the game becomes slower and slower as you play more and more? Please continue. Yes, yes. Okay. Wow. So let me repeat the answer from Asimin. Okay. That is because whenever you create some enemy, for example, you play a shooting game, you create so many stations all over the screen, and you just shoot them, and they seems to be destroyed. But if the spaceship, most of the time when you instantiate a turtle, do you remember the turtle over here? Okay, let me use the green color. Every time when I create an object, actually I create a memory on heap, and everything is stored in the heap. For whomever needs the data over here, I just pass the reference to this player one to the method, and he can manipulate the data. But what if I forgot to delete the heap memory over here? Oh, if you forgot, if you forget to delete the memory showing at the top of the figure, it will become a garbage. We call this kind of data garbage. So you need a garbage collector to analyze whether the data is right now a garbage or a living data. So if your runtime, C# runtime, distinguish this paragraph of data as a garbage, it will collect the garbage and release the memory to you. But if somewhere, if for somewhere, it it still keeps the reference to the garbage. Oh no, if somebody keeps a reference to the garbage, then it won't be a garbage. It will be considered as a living data. So that is very important. Whenever you exit the method, if you are sure the character of the player is no more needed, you should delete the object by yourself. And fortunately, garbage collector is a little bit smart, so it can distinguish whether you are using the memory or not. All right. So I personally go back to the slides. So class object is a nice thing to have, but you have to remember whether this data is living or it should be collected as a garbage. But struct data is a value type data. So whenever you exit the method, the struct will be released. So that's the most different thing between these two, right? And the more things, yeah, the class, the object is stored on the heap. On the other hand, struct is living on the stack. And for some older languages like C and C++, there are some limits for the size of struct. So ideally, a struct should be under 16 bytes, but there isn't any limit for class. So for modern language, the length of struct would be longer than the old language. I think it should be is 10, 16 bytes right now, but that's not the original meaning of struct because in originally struct is a different representation for a word or for bytes. But right now, structs it definitely grows bigger and becomes a bigger monster things in programming. Okay. Oh, so let's have some practice. So I need your help to open your Unity and let's create a class. By the way, let's create a struct also, and let's try to distinguish the differences between these two things. All right. Okay. Now let's open our Unity. All right, we were just talking about the garbage collecting scenes. So, what's shown on the screen is a method from .NET from C#.NET. So, just like this API, gc.collect. So this is provided by the system package, which is by default it should be installed into your computer. So you can call gc.collect in order to enforce the garbage collector to take action, and it will try to collect as many garbage from your memory as possible. So next time if you're making some game and you feel like that whenever the enemy grows, your game is getting much more slower, you can consider to irregularly call garbage collection, or because garbage collector will function periodically, so you don't need to always call this kind of thing. By the way, do not call this garbage collection too frequently because it will run some algorithm in order to partition your memory. So whenever you call garbage collection, it will cause the system to halt a little bit. And after that halt is over, your system runs much more smoother than before. So this is an extra bonus for everybody. So that's not the scope in this class, garbage collector. Okay, now I have my Unity open over here. So let's try to implement some class object like a player. So in this class, we call this class a player. And the first part of the definition is the properties. So we declare two public properties over here. Um, For the basic Unity user, probably all you need is a field during the last year. So the fields and the property, although these two things are variable, actually that works differently. Field is very convenient to use. Field, if I need to define a nickname, what I'm going to do is to declare the nickname as a public string. If I'm going to define my age, what I'm going to do is to declare an age in integer. So what is public and what is private? Okay, public means the visibility for the nickname variable to outside of the object. Whenever we instantiate this class, he might have brothers. I mean, the same class, but a different object, different instance. And if you're going to implement some in-object communication, and you have to call the methods in this class, you have to read the property or fields in this class, and you must follow the visibility rules over here. For this variable, the visibility is public, so this means that everyone can read or write the nickname of this player. On the other hand, we see that for the age integer, its visibility is private. So that means no one knows there is a variable called age for a player object. So if there is no one knows the existing of the age variable, so what can it function? All right. So actually, a private variable could be used only within the scope of the class only. So only the class body. We call this program a class body. You can only read or write the age within the class body. So that's the visibility settings. So we see that for property, we also have a visibility settings. So for the name property, this is a public visibility. And later we see that we can declare a getter and a setter for this property. So Mr. Fu, what is getter and what is setter? All right, so we can think of this kind of design, a kind of asymmetry to read and write. For a property,
with both getter and setter, you can read it and write that for sure because you have a getter. But for the second one, we see for the health variable, it only has a getter in the health part. So that means you can only read the health variable. You can't write the health variable. So by this setting, we can design a reader-only property. Or you can assign only the setter or another variable, and that will be the variable that available to be write-only variable. So Mr. Fu, why do I need to set a reader-only or a write-only privilege for the variables? That's for API design. If you are going to design a plugin, so right now we use the plugin from others. Maybe sometimes you want to design your own plugins. At the time you are going to design some special value that you won't let your user to manipulate. So, or if you design a machine and your machine has some status like OK status, notebook status, unknown status, but this status should be read-only variable. Your user shouldn't write any status into the variable, otherwise it would cause some crash or something like that. So if this is what we want, we're going to set the status variable read only. So if you need read only, you just need to implement the getter and you don't need to implement the setter. So that's why we need such a asymmetry visibility.
So we see that for property you can make the visibility asymmetry, but for fields you are never able to do similar things. So that's the difference between property and field. By the way, if you like to write your customer getter and setter, you are able to follow the format over here. You can assign your private getter and setter. So when you're writing a setter, there is a default value. You see the blue word value over here, okay? And in the setter function, and your user will pass some value into the setter function, and you can get the value by simply using the value, the value word over here, and you can assign the value to other properties or other fields. All right. Okay. Oops. All right, so let's see the struct part. For the struct part, it's much more simple, and you can still implement the property, or you can use the field, and no problem. I just omitted the field over here, and you can even let your struct to carry a method. That's for sure, no problem. So if we look these two things together, we are going to think they are the same thing, but actually they are not. When passing the value to other method, they follow different rules, just like I draw on my sketch before. Okay, so that's the most different, most differences between these two things. All right. Okay, now let's forget the struct things. Let's focus on class object. So we're going to declare a class object over here, and this class is a person, and the person have a name, the person has an age, and the person even has a car. Oops, what is a car? Actually, car is also a custom class in this example, which is designed from line number 3 to line number 8. So from line number 3 to line number 8, we declare a class called car, and the car has a string, which is its brand, and a car also has an array of tires, which I designed to implement as a health point for tire. Maybe I just kidding. If a tire has a health point, maybe when it is vendor that it is manufactured, that it has a health point of 100, and when the tile is floated, its health point will be 0, something like that. All right, so let me open the Unity and make this example for everybody. All right, so before the end of this class, I need everybody to finish the page number 39 in order to get an idea for how to declare a class object. And by the way, did you see the line number 3? Line number 3 is an attribute. This is an attribute of C sharp. So you can customize your attribute, but for this attribute, it will expose its structure to Unity editor. Okay, let me have an example for everybody. Okay, now I have my new class over here. So I don't need to start and update right now, just clean every code and that's, and I'm going to declare a class and class, and the class name is car, and this is its body. So um, I'm going to declare a brand, and by the way, I'm going to declare an array of integer. I'm going to call the array as tires. Okay, so let me. Oh, I just set the visibility of this class to public. Okay, but if you want your Unity to get and all the information inside the car, you have to set set the attribute before the class. So let's type system.serializable. And Unity can use a method called the reflection to read all the lines, all the programs inside the car. So we're going to talk about reflection next class. But before that, let's just type the line number 7 over here. Okay, by the way, let's declare another class. And we're calling this class person. Oh, sorry. So a person, of course, it has a string of name and it has an integer of age, and it also has a car. And I'm going to instantiate a car as a car in small letters. And of course, I'm going to expose the structure to Unity editor. So it would be like that. Uh, oh, sorry. Oh, in the example, I just push the declaration outside. Just push the two class definitions outside of the mono behavior class. Oh, let me have a reminders for everybody. Do you know how to move a paragraph of code instantly? You can do it like this. First, select all the text you want, and second, hold your Alt key, and press up, 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 down, 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 down. Okay, so for example, I'm going to move all these things into this class body, and that will be done. So if I'm going to move all these things out, just do it like this. Now Control K and D in Unity, sorry, in Microsoft Visual Studio, Control K and the D will be prettify, the hotkey for prettify. All right, okay, so let me instantiate a person. All right, so this is it. Go back to Unity, you will see some magic happens. Okay, so before you have a coffee break, I need to have to finish the exercise. Your start to have all this is called the field using anchor. Okay? Okay? When you finish it, you can have a coffee break, right? So, I know, let's have an exercise, and after that, you can have a 10 minutes coffee break. Let's get back to the class 13 past the 2 o'clock, okay? Ah. Oh, yes. Maybe there is a single possibility. All right, so let's get back to our class. So from the last exercise, we know how to create a class, and sometimes when you are browsing some internet articles, it provides some implementation of some objects as a struct, and you can do so, no problem. But for my personal habit, I prefer class object most. And in last example, we implement data structure for a person, and that person could have only one car. Yeah. So look at here. We declare in the line number set 17, we declare only one variable as a car object for this person. So what if? So what if? What if a person can have more than one car? How to modify the structure? I think that is simple. If you are going to use an array, and we can let the person to have an array of cars. So the only modification will be like this. Find line number 17. We are going to modify the car definition as a car array. Boom. And save the file, go back to Unity. You'll see some magic happen. Okay. So it looks right now a car written over here is a list. Actually, it's an array, but in Unity editor, you can take it as a list. So you can append the list. You can append the list. You can append the list. So right now, this person have three different cars. And for the first car, you can set the brand as Toyota, and it has um, one tire only, for example. And for the second car, maybe I can set a brand to Honda, and it has two tires with all the tire value equal to 100. And for the third car, I'm going to set it as a BMW, and the tires, I'm going to add totally four tires for this BMW. I'm going to give different values to the tire pressure, maybe tire pressure or tire health point. Okay, so now the data structure looks more vivid and much more versatile, much more utilizable to our game. So that's the importance of how you design the data structure for your game or application. Of course, you can even make the person as a person array. Like in line number 22, we can modify the define, and let's define the person variable to be a person array. So if this is what you want, the data structure becomes much more and more complicated. But now it is much more closer to a real game. In the real game, we have a very complicated data structure and with some different purposes of data. They're working together to make you feel like everything is correctly simulated. All right, so that's it. That's all everything about class object. So next, if you feel like you want to know more about the value type and the reference type, one article is provided over here. And if you have time, it's highly recommended that you read through the whole article. Okay, this article is from Microsoft, and it's talking about the meta parameters, just like what we had talked in last hour. Okay, but we are going to skip it right now because this is a huge article. So let's finish the class object and move on to the next topic, which is a JSON object. So what is a JSON? Actually, JSON is composed of key value pairs, which we just talked about in last week. And by simply merge different key value pairs into different levels, you get a JSON. So JSON actually is a abbreviation for JavaScript object notation. JavaScript object notation, JSON. JSON is a lightweight data interchange format that is very easy for humans to read and write, and easy for machines to parse and generate. So if you are interested in making a website, probably you already have some experience about using a JSON. Uh, do you like Ajax? Do you know Ajax? Ajax is a protocol to for a web page to communicate with the server. So probably most of the Ajax code using JSON as the data format when you pass in some data between front end to back end. So that's a pretty common format in the networking world. So the usage of JSON is the first usage is to store configuration settings, and the second usage is to exchange data between a web server and a client, and the third usage is to persist data in files, and the fourth usage is to provide the interoperability between different systems and the programming languages. So actually, JSON relies on key value pairs. JSON objects are collections of key value pairs separated by commas. And where the keys are strings and values can be strings. And most of the time, you're going to use string as the key. And for the values, it's not limited to a string. For the value, you can use value, you can use null, or you can use a string. So of course, you can use numbers, arrays, booleans, or other JSON objects as values. So it's very flexible for a JSON object in order to embed another JSON object into it. Okay. I think we can temporarily skip the advantages part. We can directly see some examples. Just like before, now we see some real data. The first one is information from a person, and the name of the person is John. The age of John is 30, and the is student means whether John is a student or not. So temporarily, John is not a student. So this field is false. So this is pretty nice description for John. We make the description as a JSON object. So later, we are going to provide this information to our program. Then our program can show the informations or just to use these data in the game world or in some applications. Besides JSON objects, there is a brother for JSON object, and its name is JSON array. Ooh, please do remember. Hey guys, watch out. Watch here. JSON object is different to JSON array. Please do remember this. So what's the most difference between a JSON object and the JSON array? Let's have some inspection into these two blocks. The first difference is the encapsulate symbols. JSON object is encapsulated by some curly braces. You see that? Here we have a pair of curly braces. So the things encapsulated within the curly braces is a JSON object. On the other hand, for JSON array, it is encapsulated by a pair of brackets. You see that? Brackets, brackets. So this is the first difference between JSON object and JSON array. And the second difference is that we know that the comma symbol just separate each of the data within object or array. Comma, 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 comma. And in the JSON object, for each element, it is a key value pair. Key value pair is a key value pair. On the other hand, for a JSON array, its element is some values. In this example, this JSON array takes string as its element, like apple, like banana, like cherry. None of these elements is key value pair. None of these elements is key value pair. So get it? So the most key important thing is that JSON object is using key value pair as its elements, while JSON array using some other types of data as its elements. Right. So if you can understand the idea behind, now let's see the third example on your right hand side. So here we have a JSON array in a JSON object. Ooh, what's that? A JSON object is noted as a cyan color part, and a JSON array is noted as a pink part. So we see a pink part embedded into a cyan part. Okay, so we get an embedding. So we are going to embed an array into an object. So this is interesting, right? You can even embed an array in an object or embed an object in an array. That is feasible for you. Okay, so this is everything about JSON object and array. All right, so I think I just said everything about this page, so we can temporarily skip this page. All right, so now let's have some implementation in Unity. We're going to implement some JSON array and JSON object. But before that, our Unity editor doesn't support to exposing a JSON object. That means if even we public a JSON object in Unity, it won't be shown in Unity editor. We need a third-party plugin. So we can use this free third-party plugin. It's JSON object. Okay, let's install this free plugin. Let's search in Unity Edit Store. We search JSON object. So where is Unity Edit Store? It's over here. Let's open the window item bar window, and you can find a Asset Store item over here. Asset Store, and you'll be brought to the Asset Store page. And in the newer version of Unity, you have to click these blue buttons over here, and it shows search online. Let's click this search online, and you will open a new web browser. Okay, great. So right now we are in the Unity Edit Store. So let's search the name of the plugin. It's JSON object. Okay, hopefully you can find this one, JSON object for free. So when after we find the page of this free third-party plugin, we can click the Open in Unity, Open in Unity, and we just open this page in Unity Editor. Yes, and you'll be brought back, and the package manager will be opened. And very soon you will be brought to the JSON object page within your package management, within your package manager. And at the top the right corner, you'll see some buttons like download and import. So before you import every code into your project, you have to download every code. So for me, I just download before, so the download button becomes a re-download. So let me click re-download. Oops, something went wrong. So after I download everything in this package, I can click import right now in order to have all the codes here uh, import to my project. Just check everything in this list and click import. Okay, so now I see a new folder in my asset folder. So it shows JSON. Okay, this is what I just download from the internet. So I have some new codes provided by by the owner of the project. Great. So I hope everything is good on your computer. So if you having any trouble, you can raise your hand. So you can omit the third-party plugin right now. You can go back to your home and install the plugin. Never mind. Uh, let, let's move on to the next slide. So later we're going to implement this kind of JSON object in your Unity 3D. We're going to do the similar things like before. In last exercise, we use class object. So this time we're going to do the same thing, but with JSON object. Okay, so we see the structure over here. In the outside scope, we are implementing a JSON object, and the first element is a name, and we are going to create a person having a name of Bob, and the second element is age. So for Bob, his age is 30. So you can see that uh, although the key is always a string, the value could be variable in type. Bob is a string, 30 is an integer value, and the Toyota is a string. And here, the tires is a JSON array. So for value is very versatile. It's you can use several different data types for value. But for key, you always use a string as key. Okay. All right. So as for the car, a car has a brand, and a car has several tires. Okay. Next. So this is it. Now let's open a new Unity C Sharp. So the name could be assigned by yourself. For me, I just assign the name as exercise JSON number 01. All right, so let me introduce the codes over here. In line number 6, we use the plugin. We use the plugin from JSON object. So it provides a customized class called JSON object. So I just instantiate a new JSON object things, and I give you a name JSON person like this. Okay. And in the start function, I'm going to uh, I'm going to initiate a JSON call, and which is derived from JSON object also. And third party plugin offers an add field method for JSON object. So we can call add field to add a field into this JSON object. So this is really handy, helpful. And like line number 12, I just did it again. I just add another field, which name is tires. And the content, the value of tires should be a JSON array. So I just declare a JSON object with a format like an array. So this will turn the JSON object into an array. So after that, I just declare a Bob, and the Bob has an age of 30, and Bob has a car, which is I just created before. And after everything is settled down, I just going to print every information. I can use toString in order to let the JSON person to print it as a string, or I can use the brackets like this, and I can read the name property from a JSON person, and I can also read the property deep into the hierarchy. I can read the tire number 1, read the health point of tire number 1 from the car of Bob. So this will pretty comprehensive for the idea about JSONs, which we had told before. Right, so now let's take about 5 minutes to implement the codes over here, okay? The code on number 48. Right. Right now, we have to import a namespace. I think the line number 1, did you see that? Defective.json, because the class may be derived from another package, so we are going to using that. Okay, and you can take your job at the hand and listen to me at the same time. Okay, somebody would ask, "Hey, Mr. Fu, why are we going to learn so many different maneuvering methods of the data structure?" That is because you are a beginner. This is your first time to design a data structure for a game. So um, if you learn many different methods to manipulate your data, and that means you can deal a much more complicated database. So that's why we're talking about so many different maneuvering methods here. But actually, probably you just need to use one amount of method that I provided to you. Okay, you're not always use everything I provided to you. You may just pick I like to use JSON object. So whenever I need a data structure for my character, I always use JSON object. Okay, that is good. That is your decision. No problem at all. You can do that. For another student, he said that, Mr. Fu, I like to use class object. So whenever I need a data structure for my player, I always use class object to implement. Okay, that is also your decision. That is also a very good choice for you. So none of these solutions are the best solutions. All the solution has its limit. It's you to decide which to use. But I have to provide a way for you in order to change the format between the two things. I mean, to change between JSON object to a class object. So how to change the format between JSON and C# class object? That's what we are going to talk about in the following hours. Maybe not so long, maybe only 30 minutes can finish this part of the techniques. All right, so let's look at this diagram. So if we want to change the object format between JSON and C# class, we are going to do it like this. Let's introduce an intermediate data format. It's a string. Maybe we shouldn't call this string. And I'm going to serialize the object into string. For the line number one, for the arrow number one and the arrow number three over here, we call this kind of process serialize. We're going to make the object into one dimensional data, namely a string, and we call this process serialization. And on the other hand, did you see the arrow number 2 and arrow number 4? It's in opposite direction. We call this kind of operation deserialize. So serialize and deserialize is what we are going to talk about in the following 30 minutes. Okay? Okay, let's do it. So the first thing is to serialize, to make the object into one long string. So how to do that? It's pretty simple. You can use a print, and with the help of a toString API, you'll be able to cast your object into string. So simple. The toString just help a lot for us. So let's do it. I think you have finished the code above, right? So just put the line number 18 over here to see whether you can get a serialized string for the object or not. Okay, I think just by calling the toString API, you can get a serialized JSON object into string. Simple, right? And let's go further. Let's dive into the next page. All right, deserialization. So we're going to deserialize the string back to JSON object. So thank God, but because we have this third plugin, otherwise we have to write a lot of code to parse the string, go back to object. We call this process parse, P-A-R-S-E. Parse means you are trying to deserialize something from string format to an data structure format. We call this process parsing. So look at this example number 2 on page 51. So we declare a JSON string literally. If you declare and define the variable like this, we call you are defining a JSON string variable literally. That means you provide the real content of this string variable literally. So we can see that Mr. Fu, there are a lot of backslash and double prime. What does it mean? Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So did you see the backslash and with a double prime over here? We call this backslash a escape character. Sorry, I need a notepad. This double slash is escape character. That means escape character is something like a control character, which in order have some meaning to a paragraph of ASCII character. So the purpose to introduce backslash over here as an escape character is like that. We know that we have to encapsulate our string by a pair of double prime. Yes or no? Yes. Okay, we have to encapsulate our string with the help of a pair of double prime. But what if we just want to print a double prime in our string? How to do that? That's not possible because every time you put a double prime into your string content, you will be represented as a closing double prime for your string, right? In order to get rid of this, whenever we want to put a double prime into our string, we put an escape character before it. So this escape character means that that's our intention to print this character. Do not take it as a control, right? So that's the purpose of backslash over here. So that means in this JSON string, owing to that we put so many double slash, it kind of been a messy string. But if you have patience, you can read through the whole string. It's double prime name double prime and uh, and and uh, and the Bob double prime Bob double prime. So the name is Bob. So don't be distracted by the double slash. Sorry, don't be distracted by the backslash. It's just a escape character. So okay, after we define the JSON string, literally we're going to deserialize the JSON string. So our third body plugin just provide a constructor. Whenever whenever we new an object, we are calling the constructor of this class. So the author provides a version of constructor with one argument, and that argument could be an initialization string, like what we typed above. So if we pass the string as the initialization argument into the constructor, we are going to get a real JSON object with the help of the third plugin. Ooh, great. So let's write the code like this. And after the parse is finished, the JSON person will have a name. Also, it will have an age, and furthermore, it will have a car, which is described within this JSON string. Okay. So here, let's take about 5 minutes to finish the example over here. Okay, so I think probably you had finished all the exercise. Okay, so congratulations, you just finished the arrow over here. You finished the arrow number one as serialization, and you also implement the code to deserialize the string back to JSON object. So that's a pair of operation over here. And before the coffee break, I'd like to introduce the arrow number three and arrow number four. It's also a pair of serialization and deserialization, but the only difference is that this time we're going to serialize everything into C# class object. So let's see what is the difference. All right, let's go to page number 52. So in this page, we see a paragraph of code over here. In the line number 5 and line number 6 over here, we see that we instantiate a person. We use the class definition to generate an object. So now we have a person object and also a car object over here. Oh, this time we get an object, we get a C# object, and we're going to stuff the data into it. How to do that? So let's see the code following here. So in the start method, we're going to write, or this time we're going to do the serialization. So we write the content directly. We assign the brand as Toyota. We assign the value of health point of each tires like this. And we assign the name, we assign the age, and we assign the car to the person. So after that, the data is ready. We're going to make it a JSON string. So how to do that? Okay, the Unity provides a JSON utility package for us, so we can directly use the APIs provided by this JSON utility class. One of the API is called the toJSON. By simply call toJSON, we can turn a JSON object, we can turn a C# object into a JSON string. So by simply call this line, we can get a JSON string. That will finish the line number 3 task over here. So how to deserialize the JSON string back to C# class? Okay, it's simple again. From the JSON utility class, we have an API called from JSON. But the signature of from JSON is a little bit complex. You can see that. You can see here. This is the signature for the from JSON API. We can see that there is one argument only. That's for sure. The one argument should be the JSON string, which we are going to pass. But the return value is a little bit weird. It shows a T. If you search the API from internet, let's search the official menu from internet. Let me show you. Unity. So we can find the page over here. So this is the signature of this API. Let's zoom in, zoom in, and zoom in. The return type is a T. What is a T? Actually, T is a generic type. That means you have to provide T when you are calling this API. So in a real implementation, you have to provide T in a diamond bracket over here. Diamond bracket. So if you have some experience before to make your Unity project, did you remember get component API? For that time, when you get some component from a game world, you always have to provide the class of that component, right? So that is the generic type of this API. So for this time, for the T, you have to provide T in a diamond bracket, just following the name of the API. All right, so if you can remember that, let's go back to this example. So this time, by following the signature, we call from JSON and provide the T as a person. So that means when it deals with the string, deals with the argument, it knows that we are going to pass that into person. It knows that what the T is. So do not forget to provide the T over here. So eventually, when it finished the parsing work, it will return a person, and we just get the person object into person. And later, we're going to check whether each of the data is correct. So we print it accordingly, like this. All right. So I need your help to finish the example over here, and maybe we take 15 minutes, including the coffee break. Okay, so let's go back 15 minutes later. It will be 18 past the 3 o'clock. Okay. Yes. Okay. free time. Uh, I think we can go back 17 after 3 o'clock. Yeah, we have about 3 minutes. Okay, let's go back to the class. And by following the last four exercises, you know how to serialize and deserialize. And you know how to turn all these things into different formats. And that's it. That's everything about JSON object. And we have some little quiz for everyone. So let's check the quiz. Okay, from the item number 7, it's related to what we were talking about today. Yes, item 7. So the question is, what does JSON stands for? What is JSON? So the correct answer is B. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, simple, right? So next one, item number 8. Which of the following is not a data type in JSON? String, number, list, or function? The answer is function. Function is not any one of data type. Function is a function. Okay, simple. Next, item number 9. Which class is commonly used in Unity for handling JSON data. Is that system collections? Is that system I/O? Is that Unity Engine UI? Or is that Unity Engine JSON utility? Of course, the answer is D, JSON utility. With the help of JSON utility, we can serialize and deserialize an C# object or a JSON object. Next one, item number 10. Which method is used to read C# class object from a JSON string in Unity using the JSON utility? Read an object, okay, that should be from JSON, right? So simple, right? Okay, now we have a little brainstorming, a very little brainstorming. After knowing enumeration and the list and the dictionary and the C# object and the JSON object, now we have to plan for an application. So that's the item number 11. Mary wants to design an application which lets her teacher to calculate the average test score of the student in her class. Okay, calculate the average of the test scores. So please help Mary to define, design, and develop the application. I think we don't have time to develop the application right now, but at least we have to have an idea about the data structure we need. So let's define the purpose of this application. So what is the key feature of this application? Uh, George, do you have any idea? Actually, the answer would be noted in the question. What is the uh, what is the key feature for this application? Yeah, yeah, that's it. Take the average of some school data, right? So apparently we have defined the key feature. And please bear in mind, never make too many key features. It's impossible for all the feature to be key, to be as important as a key feature. No way. So probably you just need to list at the most three feature as key feature. But for this application, our key feature is to average the test score. Okay, wait a moment. So what if after we have the average score and we provide further information to the user? For example, we see a student with an average of about 70 and the other student have an average of 80 and another student have an average of 90. So is there any information could be added or extended to let the user have a more idea about the score behind, the average score behind? How about rank? How about rank? So, although the rank is not required in this requirement, you can propose to make a function to provide rank to the user. Okay, so that is the idea. All right. So next, let's design. What is the operation scenario to enable the feature? In order to get the average test score, what should the user do? What should the user do? For example, the first thing is to load the whole data into the application, right? For example, if I have an Excel, I can load the whole Excel into the application, then calculate the average, right? So my purpose is to calculate the average, but firstly, I need the data. So somebody has to prepare the data for me. And after that, I write a program to uh, to see clearly what's inside the data. Okay, okay, okay. Then I just press enter to take the average and show to the user. All right. So the operation scenario will be like this. First, get the data sheet. Sorry, get the spreadsheet, load the spreadsheet, and then read the data from the spreadsheet, and then take calculation on the spreadsheet, and then show the result on the user interface. For interactive design department, we love to design user interface. But even if the interface is so beautiful, you still have to know how to deal with the pre-processing tasks like loading a spreadsheet. Okay, so we finish the operation scenario will be like what I told before. And the third thing is how to implement the system to support required operation. That is a huge topic beyond what can be taught within 1 hour. But at least I have to teach you how to design the structure of database. So let's open Excel. So for example, we can call the first column as the name of the student. So Bob again. So this is the score. Okay. Maybe Bob has a score of 80, and Mary has a score of 90, and John has a score of 75, for example. And maybe we have several subjects because we have program, we have art, we have music. This is score A, and this is score B. So everybody have two different scores, and again, 81 and would be like 91, and maybe score C, and score C, and just random numbers. That's some simulation for the spreadsheet. So, I have a personal average. This is the personal average to take average on these three different values. So this value, this average should be a floating point, but the score is integer. So as far as we can see, when we are designing each of the field, the data type is different. The data type for score A should be integer, 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 integer. The data type for score B and C are also integer, 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 and integer. But for the average, this should using a floating point. So it could represent uh, for the average taken on these three different integers. So maybe okay, I'm going to leave this column blank because later we are going to use program to calculate the correct average score. But right now we can see that the average for Bob is not an integer, so we have to use a floating number, a float number to represent for the average. All right. So maybe we are considering to add a rank. So for the person who get a score much more than 90 points, we are going to give him a rank A. For a person who are getting a score between 80 and 90, we're going to give rank B. For the rest, we're going to give rank C or something like that. So for the rank, we are considering to use enumeration. Did you remember the enumeration? For example, we have A to E. That means there are 5 different levels for our rank. So we can declare A, B, C, D, E as the element for enumeration. So integer, 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 flow number, and enumeration. That's what we're going to do when we're creating the C# class object. All right. So this is the planning for the data structure. All right. Never use string for rank because someday if you typo, you have some typo, you type a Z, you type a Z, onto this spreadsheet, then something will happen. And you should be able to notice about the error when you suddenly when you're typing an error message. So enumeration should be the better way for implement the rank data over here. All right, so that's it because we don't have further time to make a sheet and load into C Sharp program and make a UI for it to display everything. But in the future, we're going to plan this kind of project. So in order to let you know how to make character design and the corresponding programs. Right, this is just a beginning. Okay, so can I use a list? Can I use a JSON array? Can I use a dictionary? Can I use something, 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 something? So we have three different items over here. If we were going to use a list, then it would be a little bit hard to search for the score A of Bob. Because if we use a list for every person, we're going to actually add another indexing numbers 0 and 1 and 2. And this will be the index in the list. It's very hard to take a primary key, integer primary key for this kind of application. The primary key is an outside of the scope of this class. Primary key is how you search the database. You can do different searching methodology, but typically you'll use primary key to indexing your elements. So list is not a perfect way to for this application. On the other hand, we are considering to take the name as the primary key. So let me delete the ID over here. We're going to set name as the primary key. So because we want to search the score for some specified person, we are going to take the name of the person as the key for dictionary. So the answer here is dictionary may be a better solution if you want to make this application, right? So can I use a JSON array? That could be a much more better way for dictionary because JSON array is a combination of key value pair. So we can make the first key, the root key of this data structure as name. And for the other data, we can write it in key value pair and group them together as a JSON array into the data structure. So JSON array is a better solution for dictionary. Again, so dictionary better than this, then JSON array better than dictionary. So our final decision is to use a JSON array for this application. All right. Of course, you can use a C# object to do that, but for the search problem, you have to deal with the search problem again. That is not easy when the database grows. So JSON array so far is the best solution to do that. All right, so that's it. Maybe sometime we're going to make it a real project in order to let you to know how to make this kind of system. Okay, we have about 30 minutes left. So let's move on to the next chapter. So this time we're going to introduce the message system in Unity and the C#. So in last chapter, we talk about data. And in this chapter, we're going to learn something like a method. But actually, method is just part of the message system in C# and Unity. So the first thing we're going to introduce is the method. And from the second thing I'm going to introduce, I will need your help to examine the name over here. Did you hear message in C# before? Or did you hear delegates in C# before? Do you know events? Or do you know Unity events? Or none of these things you have dealt before and you know nothing about them? Okay, okay, just kidding. All right, never mind. Um,
Actually, if you are making a program for fun, just for fun, and you just need the program to run for maybe 10 times, maybe you just need a program for your birthday party, and you just write for that day only, and next year you won't take it back again and run for again, and you can omit every single book. But if you are going to design something that should be cooperate with some member, some other programmers, that you're considering to write a structural code. And when you are calling some method, and you may consider to use delegate event or unity event in order to make your package, your plugin much more popular among your collaborators or among the community. So that's why we're considering not only using the method call, but using the complex message, delegate events, or unity events. Or if you want to implement some design patterns, something like server patterns, something like subscriber patterns, then you will need the help of delegate and events. So that's why we are going to introduce these things in this chapter.
all right. So okay, let's see why this chapter is important. But before we introduce so many different messaging systems, why do we need to learn these things? The first importance of learning these things is to trying to solve the coupling problem. So we are going to decouple all the components and separate them into different parts. What is couple and decouple? Coupling means that your codes are very tightly combined together. So if you fix or modify one of them, the other recipe is forced to be modified. It would not be a problem if you just run the program for once. But if you want to maintenance the code for over 1 year, this is definitely a huge problem. So we have to decouple and cut the code and make a very obvious boundary for each of the module. And if this thing is called trying to make things decouple. So decouple is a very important thing when we work together. And the second thing, the second importance is to enhance the flexibility. Sometimes when we are writing code for fun, we're not going to test it, just like your semester project. We never test our project because uh, whenever it barks like a dog, it is a dog. It quacks like a dog, it is a dog. Okay. So we never test our code in school. But when you're working in a company, testing is a very, very important problem. And most of the time, you're going to design how to test the code before you start the programming. So you have to use the same code when developing and testing. So you have to make the core function as a module and open some test interface in order to let the other engineer to test the code for you. So how to do that? So by simply using messaging system, you can flexibly change the operation. If you want A, you just plug in A to the socket. If you want B, you just plug out A and plug in B into the socket. So you can flexibly change the behavior of your code. The third importance is that the real-time communication. Okay, so real time means that you don't need to compile again. Probably you can dynamically assign the behavior when you run, uh, when you post again, or you run the game in a half of some time. You can dynamically assign the behavior of your system. So the fourth importance is unity development. Okay, And probably somebody have some experience about using Unity event, but some other student are not. I think a Unity event is a must-have skill for Unity engineer. So you have to learn that. So that's the importance of this chapter. Right. So let's go to the code. Direct method calling. This should be what we have do in the past years. Um, let's look at the codes over here. The red code health player. Okay, suppose that we have two different components over here.
Don't look at the slide. I'm going to test it. I'm going to see whether you know how to solve the problem or not. So don't look at the slide. Suppose you have two different components, component A and component B. So within component B, I have a function. But this time, I want to let the component A to call the function which is inside component B. How to do that? How to do that? Can you get the question? Let me do it again. I have two different components in Unity, and both of the components are attached to the same object, component A and B. Right now, component B has a very special function. Maybe I call the function echo function in component B. But I want to let component A to call the echo function, which is inside component B. How to do that? Yes. Uh, how to put it like that? First thing is to get the object bigger, the message. Is a workaround provided by you. Okay. Maximilian is talking about the correct answer and get the class, get the instance, and call the method by instance. And the Camila is using the special function provided by Unity. Oh, thank you, Unity. You provide a very simple. Yes, that's a workaround. Mm, why? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why I say that is only a workaround? It's not a solution. That is because the overhead. I mean, using that message will consume more processing power than the level coding of the message. But it's very convenient, right? Mm-hmm. So both of the solution works. But let me show you what happened inside the code.
Okay, so the first class is a player. The player is over here. So from line number 7 to line number 17 is the class body of this class. And his brother is a call health script, call health component. So it's over here. The call health is look like this. Just like I said before, within call health class, we have a special function, and the name of the function is apply damage. So whenever the player is hit, it should call the apply damage uh, to apply the damage point to himself. So that's the idea of separate these two things into two components. One is for player control, the other is for health management. So this separate the purpose of the system. Right now, for the player class, if you want to call the applied damage, since the applied damage is bundled into the instance, it's not a static method. So you need to get the object in order to call from the instance. So the first thing is to get component. By calling get component, you can get the sibling objects which is next or before you in the hierarchy tree. So by calling get component call health, you can get the brother, I mean the screen over here. And when we get the brother, we can save the reference into this variable. Okay, we're going to save the reference into health. Ooh, now we have the reference. That means we can call the method on the object through the reference. The most important thing is through the reference. You see the line over here. Whenever we need to call the applied damage, we need to get the reference. Did you see the Google reference arrow in Unity before? Did you see the Google reference arrow? Yeah, frequently happens. Most of the time you'll get this when you're developing your final product. That means your reference is an empty reference. It is null. When it is null, it pointing to nothing. So no matter you get that's not possible to call the function, and you'll get an error. But since we definitely have a non-null reference right on the page, it's guaranteed that it would have some real reference. And we can call this, we can, uh, we can dereferencing this method by calling like this. We call this type of format dereference. So, do you know static? Static, if I only find the declaration, static only void. That will turn this method into a static method. If you want to call a static method, you don't need any reference. You just need the class of this system. So that's the difference. So we're not going to talk about the static method today. We're just focusing at the instant method calling through the reference like this. Okay. So I need your help to finish the code like this page. So after this exercise, you know how to call the method on another object. How to do that? First thing, get the reference. Get the reference of the object you want to call. Get it. And when you have the reference, you can dereference the method and call the method. All right? Okay, let's do it. Okay. Okay, again, let me take Mario, Super Mario as an example to elaborate why getting a reference and dereferencing the method is so important. So just like what we have seen before in the Mario's world, it has a lot of enemy, and enemy. And this is Mario. He's wanting to kick the turtle. Okay, he's wanting to jump on the turtle. Okay, if this thing really happens and the turtle is hit, the turtle is damaged, and the turtle should call the apply damage function on itself. Apply damage. Apply damage. DMG. So every turtle has this apply damage function. Every turtle having the same class design, so everyone has this apply damage function. So when Mario hits this turtle, you never want this turtle to take effect, to take action on apply damage, right? You just need this turtle to take effect. But if you didn't take care of the object selection, if you didn't get the correct reference, you will get a malfunction again. The game will function improperly. When you kick this turtle, but this turtle dead, that is a huge bug. So getting the correct reference is the most important thing in your game. So um, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So this is not complicated. The most complicated thing is line number 8. How do you get the correct reference which responds to your game logic? So this is always the problem. Okay. So sometimes you want to do that. When you kick this turtle, you want all the turtle to be damaged. For some logic, you will do that. For example, right now you are in super powered mode. You are a god mode. You're in god mode. Whenever you hit any one of the enemy, all the enemy that on the screen should take damage. So sometimes you need a god mode, but sometimes you are an ordinary people. You just kick one turtle and that turtle hurts. So this should be flexible. Sometimes you are God, sometimes you are an ordinary person, and sometimes you are uh, you, you you are half powered, you're a weakened character. So how to select the correct reference is one of the important things for your programmers to nicely arrange your architecture. Right. So let's go back. Okay, that's everything about the ref method calling. You just get the reference and call the method. All right, so let's see more message system. The second thing we're going to introduce is the message system. Aha. And it's just like what Camila said 5 minutes ago. We can use send message to do the same thing. So let's skip the introduction here. Let's go to page number 8. So in page number 8, we rewrite the two components, and we most of the modification lies in the player class. So let's see the class over here. So this time we are not getting the reference to the component. We are getting the game object uh, of himself. We know that for any of the component, you can use the reserved keyword gain object to get the gain object which owns you. This
Actually, this is a little bit complicated. What what does the get object mean in the Unity world? Actually, get object is a campaign, and that's the get object in Unity is just an empty container, but it just can contain more behavior. So just like you see before, we encourage the more behavior to implement or customize the scripts. So for those code that encourage model behavior, you can attach it to the game object because the object is only a container. So of course, for each of the component in the container, it can know who is the container by simply read the get object result word here. Actually, this is a policy. So look here. We get the get object and we use the get object to send a message to all of the listen in the hierarchy. So all the components belongs to the get object will receive a message. So this is the content of the message body. The message only contains one string, and that string is a mysterious name. If somebody carry the standard of the mysterious name, and I mean carry the standard of the method, and it just call a method. It will be like that. Hey, does anyone know who has the applied message? Please raise your hand and just send this message out. And if somebody, your sibling, has this kind of lesson, you will reply, hey, I have the lesson. Okay, I'll call for you. And just call it. It's like that. So this is a pretty simple message system. And if you have any argument to carry with the message, you can append the arguments over here, the second argument over here. But since there are a lot of data structure, before we pass the arguments with the message body, we have to turn the data into a C# object format. C# object format is the root of every data structure, every data type. So we just boxing the data into object formats. This is a little bit complex because we just can assign any real format in the parameter because different code it just may have different signature. So we always box the parameter into the type of object. And whoever receives this object value, you can turn it back to the type we want. So this is why we boxing the value into object type. All right.
Okay, so now I need your help. We don't have too much time left, but at the least I need your help to implement the code on page number 8 to clearly see that uh, the message works the same as the red message call.
Okay, I think we should start it here because for the following topic we need more time to elaborate the details. And I hope the two examples will let you know that the difference between the random method calling, the random method calling means that you have to grab the reference before you call. Otherwise, you will have a null reference. Null reference call will give you an error message. And if you don't like to bother with the null reference, getting your get out of the container and let the container call all the attached components for you. And this is for convenience. Two things you have to be noted before you use send message. The first thing is that the argument is fast. Because this type of typecasting of fast, you can in C-sharp you can turn all the data type into objects, and this process so fast. And later, when someone gets this object, we can turn it back to the real fast. We call that process unbox. So boxing and unboxing is pretty common in C sharp in program design. But please to remember, boxing and unboxing will left some garbage on your heap. Did you remember the heap and garbage collection? Boxing and unboxing will leave some garbage on your heap. So if you do this frequently, you will quickly get so many garbage. But hopefully, garbage collector will do the cleansing for you. It is the first thing you have to know. To remember to box the value over here. The second thing is that since we utilize the container to call all the sibling child, all the siblings of you, all the child of it within the list, it is process consuming. Because it's possible that none of the components having this API, none of the components can receive this message. But you still spend a lot of processing power to check whether this code is valid or not. So send message is a little bit power consuming comparing to the method call. Okay, this is only two things you have to know. All right, I think we have to hold that here. Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, if you have any questions, you are welcome to say it here, and I'm able to have more time to have a discussion with anybody, right? So if you don't have any problem, let's call it a day. And next time, next week, we're going to talk about the Unity system and Unity event. Okay? All right. See you next time. Yes. Okay, I know for this limit, our program is but our partner will range from easy to complex. We're going to have 50 questions. I think we need to bring the easy and one to but we have I hope if anyone wants to use the very thinking how to make your progress feel good this afternoon. But if you really to find your time to are to your design, and you still can get it nice it didn't come out. Yeah, it was. I hope everything is good. And if you have any question, you can find me. And I have the yeah. to be. And I love to research more about Unity. I know that my programming skills are not very good. I wish I could improve it. Um, but yeah, just I would like that to be a skill which I could improve further.
Okay. So you're willing to become a programmer? Sure. Is it good?
Well, I mean, I do have to learn at least to a certain degree the programming side, but I'm more of a bit more interested in like the level design or story elements. But also, like, I know I need to have some degree of knowledge of programming. If you're gonna use Unity, you will have to work with it. So yeah, I guess maybe just any help that I can receive or any advice on that, I would appreciate it.
If we have time, I'm going to make some design level design papers. I can share some information.
Okay. Yeah, I've been doing some courses. Like in summer, I was doing some courses, and I still have to finish them. But yeah, I might further.
Great. It looks like you have a very splendid, very nice summer vacation.
Yeah. It was nice.
Okay, nice.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, you are welcome.
For waiting.
Okay. Okay. I have a seat because I have some introducing to did you find your ending again? I think that is the net of the comment. Sorry. Okay, that's why. So what the building is there? Okay, so your job position is design for sure. So you need to use be Photoshop, Word. How do you know the job? So you run also because for the overseas students, that the SAP is the most for me. I will ask you what to do and how to communicate it. So do you have any example or most I know or how you they can help you? Never I want to and then never most哦，好，等一下，我先搜一下，然后基本正式的，你是可以说吧，好，可以啊，这曾经在我这里，但是我需要一件事情，要因为我知道，先直接把这个写好，然后看这个类型，然后如果我要加，我就加，我要改。
可以先打掉。哦，这个来，这个先接过去。这个先再照下去。它现在是一个广播的状况，所以你如果插上去的话，它应该这些荧幕都会显现的出来。这个是从这边接的。